The 26th session of the Conference of the Parties to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change is being held in Glasgow, Scotland. Papua New Guinea's Minister for Environment, Conservation and Climate Change, Wera Mori, says his country is a direct victim of climate change, urging developed countries to take real actions to tackle the global crisis instead of making empty promises or shifting the blame to developing countries.
We do not want to walk away disappointed, and that now is not the right time for rhetorics, simply because global warming is real. The factors responsible for global warming is the concentrations of carbon dioxide. My message to the developed countries is that they've got to basically meet their obligations. We are a victim as a consequence of their activities, and it is totally unfair that while we are bracing ourselves as to how we could be able to mitigate within our sphere, the developed world are continuously emitting greenhouse gases in the quest for development, in the quest basically for to advance their livelihood, while we are suffering the consequences. We have lost our oceans. We have lost our oceans because they've become highly acidic due to the increase in temperatures, and that we have lost our marine stock in terms of tuna and other commercial fish. Furthermore, we have seen, given the rise in the temperatures, a build-up of wind that leads to storm, tornadoes, cyclones.
Meanwhile, the country's infrastructure is also being damaged by global warming.
So as a form of economy, you could be looking at about roughly $100 million in terms, if you have to put the value on the loss and the inconveniences that has caused. In terms of our major transport infrastructure, the damages are also are quite considerable, and it cost the country about hundreds of millions of kina, probably about $100 to $200 million a year, just to maintain them.
The minister voiced his hope that substantial progress could be made in the negotiations.
Firstly, they must reduce the emission of carbon dioxide. Secondly, they have got to also be part of the mitigation processes and adaptations. Thirdly, they have got to compensate those countries that have been impacted by climate change. In the area of mitigation and adaptation, we want them to play a more significant role so that they can help those countries that are impacted by climate change to adapt to a new normal. Otherwise, it is totally unfair that they have got to struggle given the status of the economy.